Hi, today we're going to learn about drawing a portrait. A picture of yourself is called a self-portrait. We're going to just draw a human face today. It doesn't have to be exactly you, but we are going to use you as the inspiration. First of all these lines that I have on your paper are called proportion lines. What we've learned as artists is that there are relationships between like our ears and our eyes, our nose and our mouth that are always the same regardless of who you are or how your face looks. These things always stay the same. So for example, tops of your ears will be matched up with the tops of your eyes. Eyebrows sit slightly above that. The bottom of your ears, that's usually even with the bottom of your nose. The inner part of your eye will always match up to the edge of your nose. The middle of your eye matches up to the corner of your mouth. And the whole face, from the corner of the eye to the middle of the mouth, will always make an equilateral triangle. Now, we're going to trace just my little dotted lines today to help us practice those shapes. When I draw eyes, one of the things that is very challenging is getting one eye to match the other exactly. So when I start sketching, I always just start with that little rainbow line of the eye. So let's trace first the little rainbow lines. Once I get those matching, then I can start drawing the rest of the eye. The next part will be the bottom of the eye. And I'm pressing down with my pencil so you can see it well on the camera. You don't have to press down quite this hard, but do fill in those lines so that it looks like we have a solid line. Now we have our eyes done. Notice I didn't just make a circle in the middle. When we look in the mirror, you'll notice that unless you are very surprised, we don't see all of that round part of your eye. But we would see the little pupil in there. We'd probably see that whole circle. So we can add those by hand if you would like to. Let's move on to the eyebrows. The eyebrows are going to be some kind of slightly curved line that sits above your eye. For some of you, that line is a very thin line. But for some of you, go ahead and make that line a little bit thicker if you have thicker eyebrows. Now let's move on to the nose. To draw a nose, always start with these little curved lines on the outside edge. Make sure that they line up with that inside edge of our eye. Remember we talked about that? That'll make sure that our nose is wide enough and it's in the right spot, and make sure that it lines up with the bottom parts of our ears. Once you have those two little curves on the side, you can make two other very small rainbow lines in between them for your nostrils. And then finally a little shadow line along the side of the nose to show that curve where our nose bumps up in between our eyes. Next, we'll move on to the mouth. Start your mouth with the wiggly line in between the lips first. Unless you are really stretching your mouth out, that line isn't usually a straight line. So look in your mirror and see what kind of little wiggly line happens in between your lips. And let's try to trace that wiggly line. Next, we'll make the top lip, which is a line that almost looks like somebody pulled on the legs of a letter M and stretched it out. Really look at your lips and decide how stretched that should look. And then finally, let's go ahead and trace that bottom line in. Now, it's very hard to see. Whoops, now we're all finished with the mouth and we're going to move on to hair. Now, it's kind of hard to see on my paper, and on yours I made these really light as well, but there is a hairline up here where our forehead stops and our hair starts to grow on that curve of the front of our head. So this is all this area in here, and in between these two lines are going to be hair. Now, because my hair is kind of long, I'm going to make some long wavy lines that go all the way down and overlap my shoulders. I'll show you a short video that shows you different types of hair. And then also, look, does your hair overlap your forehead? If it does, let it go ahead and overlap into those spaces. Once you have the basic form of your hair, you can add a few more lines for details. But let's save most of the detail lines for our crayons. Let's try to get our picture completed with eyes, eyebrows, nose, lips, and hair before we start coloring. Use the colors that you see in the mirror to color yourself. Have fun!